All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here, and today I'm going to do another segment on the Warlock series. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a journey. Now, a lot of individuals that get into any form of sorcery bring with them their past affiliations, the dogmatic views of that system into their new system, especially when they leave organizations, cults, things like the JCI, the Judo Christian Institutions, for an example. But believe me, it is not just them. You're also looking at pagans and Wiccans when they leave those traditions and realize that witchcraft, necromancy, systems that are much older hold much more power, much more sway, and are much truer in nature than what they've been led to believe. You take my path for an example. This path has taken a lot from me. People don't realize that when you become a witch or a warlock, you are signing, let's just say, assigning away your affiliations. Seriously, Harley? For those of you who saw the blur that just went by, that was one of the four cats that we own. And then we have another one over here that apparently likes beer. Who would have thought? Are you trying to be like your sister? Hey, shoo. So, anyways, as I was saying, get an animal, you'll have a blast. Trust me. Some of the things they do, hilarious. But and it's stuff that's unexpected like that. That just transpired that makes these videos worthwhile. So, anyways, as I was saying, you get these individuals that come in from other affiliations and they hold their dogmatic views. But from a personalized journey, I can tell you that you give up a lot. You are signing away your affiliations with the world. Okay? Basically, think of it as best way I can look at it is consider it in a formulation of death row. Okay? You're away from the populace, you're basically solitary confinement for the remainder of your life. Best way I can describe that to you, just not with the execution at the end. Okay, so wipe that one out of the existence. So when you get into witchcraft, sorcery, necromancy, whatever, you are solitary. That means people are going to avoid you like the plague. A lot of people that still hold sway within the populace will spread rumors about you. They will hate you because of what they've been led to believe. Things like Hollywood produced films, things like the outlook of witchcraft, sorcery of any kind, and the diviners, truthsayers, necromancers, you name it, from the outlook of the church. This has been done for over 2,500 years, more so over the last 1,000. Okay. And we all know that story. Okay. The wars, the affiliations, the holocausts, everything. Just because one religion wanted to exterminate all others. Okay. Prime example of that would be from Blood of Brugeria. Okay. I'm reminded of this because of the fact that when I began my journey into Brugeria sorcery as a Bruo, just a few months ago. The very first book that I bought was called The Blood of Brujeria, and it was recommended by a practitioner of Santa Morte. So I looked into it and I bought it. I even bought its companion, Magia Magia. Okay. Two very good books, and I bought several since then just to study it and practice it, including herbalism, alchemy, and such. One of the stories that really stuck with me and hit close to home because it relates to my life particularly. And I know that when you get into witchcraft of any sort, be it voodoo, be it African Caribbean traditions, be it druidic, necromantic, wizardry, witchcraft, whatever, you're going to have the same image, the same perspective. And basically, the story goes that a kid is walking, well, I wouldn't say walking, he's more sitting in the near the front of the sanctuary, okay, at a local parish. A woman that's sitting in the front row turns and looks at him. Her eyes were glazed over. They were cold, stone cold, sent shivers down his spine to the point where he shoved his dick between his legs and ran away. Okay. Basically, that is the story. Okay. The father of this kid basically told him that that woman was a brua rather, a female witch. Okay. Don't get associated with him, is how he put it. Okay. Very, very powerful, very, very bad news type story. Okay. That he tells his son. So, the moral of the story is it doesn't matter if you go to church or you do not. You have a target on your back. Okay. Now, one of the biggest things out there about being a warlock or a practitioner of witchcraft of any kind. Now, as you know, I am not just a warlock, I am a practicing necromancer. Okay. Of the last 3 years, I have been a practitioner of the dark arts for 33 years now. Okay. This is my 33rd year of practicing. You are going to have a bullseye on your back. And believe me, people will talk. You will have the hardships more so than anyone else. I went down to Texas over a decade ago as an example. A friend of mine, or I should say a former friend and his wife, bought a house. They rented out a house. Well, it's basically the same thing, bought, rent, same thing. You basically are living in that house. Now, believe me when I tell you this was a shit show type house. Okay. Plumbing never worked well. There was insects, roaches, you name it, all over the fucking place. It was one of those Texas type houses that nobody really wants to live in, but it's in the poorest section of Texas. Basically, what I refer to as the redneck hood. Okay. Now, I didn't know this when I moved there. So I went there, and my friends, they're Neopagans. Okay. My former friends are Neopagans. They went out and they always had their pentacles out, the whole kit and caboodle. They were nice. They were more storytellers than anything. They kind of remind me of gypsies, you know, the travelers. And it was interesting because the first time that I mentioned that I was a satanic warlock, the words of Anton Zander LaVey sounded quite well throughout that community and the surrounding regions. I'm talking counties wise. So I had basically three counties of Christians rise up against me. My Neopagan friends at the time were, well, number one, they were schizophrenics. Number two, storytellers, habitual liars. So, I mean, you can watch them walk down the street and they're going to come in and tell you a big old fucking tale, type story of how a car cut across a parking lane up onto a curb and almost struck them. That kind of story. And it's like, dude, I just watched you walk a mile from the store and you're blowing smoke up my ass. Why? Yeah, that type of storytellers. So we basically separated soon after that, but this instance, but 6 months I lived down there in Clarksville, Texas, the ass end of what is known as the Bible Belt. Okay. This little community is 85%, or was 85% at the time, of welfare. Okay. That's how many people, percent wise, in that community of Red River County lived with welfare. Okay. They were so poor in that region, you couldn't even do shit. There wasn't that many stores. So basically, the way it was told to me by people is that if you were not part of the good old boys group, you won't get far. It did not matter if you volunteered at a soup kitchen. It did not matter if you went to their main church, which was St. Peter's, okay, a Catholic church, quarter mile down the fucking road. You have been branded because you are of the devil, okay? I can't tell you how many rumors went back and forth just about me alone. There was a time when the deputy chief of the sheriff's department showed up at our door and said, and I quote, that word had gotten to them from the Paris police department that somebody had threatened to burn down our house on Halloween, which ironically was 1 week from that day. Okay. And it was hilarious. Not one fucking thing happened. We were banded. We weren't just branded. We were banished from stores. We were asked to leave. Any restaurant that basically served us, such as Domino's, for an example, because there was a Domino's at the time there. 2 days later, we went back to order another pizza and they were closed down. Literally closed down. Okay. 2 days after I left Texas, I get a call from my former friends, and they said that the Catholic Church had bought the house that we were living in just to evict me. Wow. This is what I mean by having a brand on your back, a bullseye. So, those of you who think that witchcraft, sorcery is a joke, that there is no such thing as religious discrimination, religious holocausts, trust me when I tell you there is. It is not fun and games, it is something serious. It is a war, plain and simple. So put your childish joking aside and get serious about your practices before you become under scrutiny. Trust me on that because I used to be where you are. And it's interesting because of the fact you get on MeWe these days Everything's about sex. Nude photos, goats having sex with women, the devil having sex with women or men, Jesus fucking Jesus, the whole kin caboodle. You can't even get into the admin page without some photo of a guy showing off his dick. I believe they refer to it as a dick pic. And it's like, you do know that there are federal laws. This is crossing state lines, which means it's a cybercrime. FBI type stuff. Okay. And I mean, I get that, Satanists and all that, want to blasphemy. Even Reverend King himself, in his books, clearly state that the demons give favor to those who blaspheme the most. Now, trust me, I'm a guy that has broken the Ten Commandments 100 times over. Okay? Not just in the physical sense, but the spiritual as well. I get that you guys are excited to join this religion, this practice, this philosophy. But thinking of it as a game is only to get you, well, alienated, targeted, and most importantly, end up with a target on your back from either non religionists or those part of the herd conformity. I've lived in several states, ranging from the north to the south, the east to the west coast. Each section has its own Mirandi and outlook. But what I can tell you is that the story I told a while ago of that cold, dead look in your eyes is true. You see, I'm not bullshitting you when I tell you this. I want you to understand that there are repercussions for your actions, which is why I'm telling you to get your shit together before that other shoe drops. You see, the code of a black magician is that you do not lash out at other magicians. You do not strike fellow wizards. If a demon, if the demonic, for that matter, sees that you are disobeying your oath and your responsibilities, they will deal with you. If you do not listen, they will go after your friends, family, and finally you. And that's only after they have whitewalled you. There are certain people that have pissed off so many people out there in the occult community that they have isolated themselves to the point where 85, if not 90% of the occult community basically looks at them and says, "We want nothing to do with you." If this is where you want to be, then that's on you. You see, that's why it's called free will. Okay? But do not mistake this path for one of easiness. It is not for the faint of heart. You will be hated, you will be targeted, and you will have to fight for every breath you take. And I am not joking about that. So, why is it that being a warlock, a Bokor, and Merimberos means that you are more powerful? How do you know that you're more powerful than these average white lighters? Well, I'll tell you. It's because a true black arts practitioner spends most of their time studying and practicing, experimenting. They're not out there making, well, a fanatic of themselves. They're not bad mouthing other people. They're not trying to be liked by everyone. You see, your power is in the shadows. Your power, your personal power, through your rites and rituals are not done out in the open. It's done in the shadows. That is where the true power comes from. If you want to add to your rituals and spells, feel free to pick on those white light practitioners, the ones that are more fear mongerer than anything, superstitious, and watch them destroy themselves. But here's the kicker: it's okay to have a little fun. It's okay to tell a joke from time to time. It's okay to, smirk every so often. You probably noticed in my videos, I get this smirk on my face when I'm talking about certain things. This is what I mean. Just because you're powerful doesn't mean you have to flaunt it. You see, I've told you so many times it's not about subscribers, it's not about numbers, it's not about how many likes you get. It's about putting that knowledge out there and learning. It is about getting back that which was lost because of these zealots, these warmongers. It takes an army, a legion of these white lighters to attack one warlock, and they still get their asses handed to them. Why? Why? Because we know our shit. We know about herbalism. We know about healing because of the plants, the trees, things that will help you learn. My boss came to me and he said, whatever remedies that you have, I am willing to try because I have this, this, and this going on. It's going to take a year before they can do anything. It's considered a pre-existing condition. Welcome to the medical world. Doesn't matter if you have it. It needs to be cured, right? Do you have this? Then you're not getting what you want. You see, that's what I'm saying. So because I know my stuff, I went home, came back the next day, and gave him 2 pages of various different remedies for what he had requested. I even gave him a full blown remedy that he could fill out and do with precise measurements. And he turned around and he asked me for something else. Not 2 days later, asked me for something else. You see, this is what I'm talking about. When you know your shit, people will come to you because they take it serious. His medical condition, it's not going to be fixed overnight. It's going to take up to about a week or two before he even begins to see any form of betterment. But it's a starting point. When people come to you asking for your rituals, I did a post in a Facebook group that I recently got into. And right off the bat, I had two brand new profiles. Two brand new profiles come to me. One had no photos whatsoever, no information. How does your rituals work? Was the only question asked. The other one had one, maybe three photos. Again, no information. Brand new profile. Sent me a friend request. First of all, how many times do I have to say I have over 200 to 300 people who have sent me friend requests on Facebook? Not one of these fools has anything on their profiles dealing about their practices. What they do have is a bunch of joking. And you expect me to accept you? No, I'm not going to accept you because that is opening up my world to your drama. Plain and simple. I don't need your drama in my life, nor do I want it. I have enough drama in my life just because of my practices. How many times do I have to say it is your personal duty to uphold the oaths that you take? It is your personal duties to know your craft, to do the research that nobody else is going to do the work for you. I've had 3 Christians come at me, ministers. I've handed all 3 of them their asses back in a sling. I've had Christians look at me and say they've never seen anything like me because I know their works better than they do. Now, how do you suppose that happens? How do you suppose that happens? And it's not just this topic either. I'm talking herbalism, I'm not talking spell work, rituals for hire. I'm talking about historical events, mythological, folkloric traditions. If I told you how many requests I've gotten, what kind of spirits would go good with this? Number one, you claim to be a practitioner of Goetic traditions for a number of years, and you don't know which Goetic spirits to use for money or to ward off certain things, or better yet, how to persuade men's minds. Make yourself invisible to your enemies. What is true power? Anton Zandelavay said it best. True power is undefiled wisdom. Now, how do you evolve? You evolve through knowledge, through wisdom, through education. This is why the Boko, the Marimberos, and the Warlock are so feared. Why do you think you've been dubbed an oathbreaker, a liar, a betrayer? It's because you don't let anything stop you from doing your job. What you swore to do when you became a sorcerer or sorceress. I want you to think about that. Your journey into any given philosophy, be it paganism, Wiccan, Christianity, be it Druidism, necromancy, shamanism, or even the dark arts. It's your personal responsibility to do the research, to go into various different regions of the world and study what that tradition and path holds. Just like it's your personal responsibility to set up and erect an altar, to reach out to those spirits, those gods, be it the lords and ladies, be it the jinn, the devi, the orisha, the lewa, the demonic, the angelic. It does not matter what spirit. Hell, even if you're dealing with your own hereditary family lineage, it is your responsibility to forge a relationship with them. In voodoo, you deal with your family lineage, your heritage. The Loa are basically the intermediaries between you and the main god. In the Caribbean traditions such as Palo, Mayambi, Monte, or even Santeria, you have one Orisha that is assigned to you when you are initiated into the tradition that becomes your guide, your go to spirit that teaches and guides you, works with you like a family member. But people forget that you have to sacrifice upon these traditions. Power is manifested through your knowledge, your wisdom, your rights. The way you live your life, the way you represent yourself, that is what matters. Think of it as consumerism. When you become an adept to the point where you are making phylacteries, you are making oleums, you are making, you know, packets of say for an example herbs and plants and mojo bags and you name it. Let's just call it the way it is, occult items, witchcraft items, whatever. And you begin to sell it to the public, that's called consumerism. You are building a brand from the time you make that first pact, that first deal. When you first align yourself with that current, you have made your first step into making that brand. So it is up to you to build upon it and to continue to grow, to mature, and to evolve in that system. And like I said at the beginning, you are going to have your haters. You are going to have your enemies. You're going to be hated. You are going to be banned. You are going to be subject to discrimination. And you are going to be shunned. This path is not for the faint of heart. That is what you need to remember. So when I say that this is a warlock's journey and the thoughts upon that journey, I look back over the last 33 years. The last 33 years. Because like I said, I'm on my 33rd year now. I look at how many friends of mine are dead. I look at how many times I've been attacked, scrutinized, hated, and despised. How many people have talked behind my back and told lies about me? How many times people have removed me from their groups because of said rumors? And then people wonder, why are you feared? And yet you are highly respected. Why? It's because I know my stuff. I've taken the time. I've put the time in. I've committed myself to this journey. No matter what tradition I'm currently studying and practicing, I'm dedicating myself to the spirits of those traditions. And I'm constantly evolving through knowledge, wisdom, able to stand on my own 2 feet as the adversary, as a threat. I did one video that has 4 point some odd hits so far to date. 98% of these comments were by JCI. They called me evil. They called me a devil. They called me the Antichrist. And I'm okay with that. Why? Because that is their perspective, it is their opinion. We live in a time of enlightenment. So, why is it that you're not becoming enlightened? Why is it that you're not achieving your apotheosis? Why is it that you're not out there doing the same? Is it because you want to be a part of something? That you want to be a part of the herd conformity just to feel like you belong? Or are you still afraid to give yourself over to that darkness, to that fear within you, and to see where it goes, to where that truth leads? If I told you half the stories of those that I've taken as apprentices, that I've guided over the years, specifically the last 10 years, you would be surprised of where they are today, how they've been freed from that dogma, that limitations. Why don't you follow suit? Pick up a book, build a library, various different traditions. I can tell you firsthand that I have books on Satanism, necromancy, Santa Morte, witchcraft, philosophies, even JCI, from the Islamic Bible to the Jewish Bible, the Hebrew Bible, to the mainstream JCI Bibles like the Gideon or the Jehovah Witness Bible, the Masonic Bible, the Masons. Yeah, I got all of them. And I've even got their philosophies. And you know what? I've even got the old scriptures, things like the poetical texts. I've got things like the Zohar, the Jewish Haggadah. I've got copies of books on things like the Codex Gigas, known as the Devil's Bible, where the Vulgate Bible came from. But people don't go into the past. They're too afraid. And it's up to you to delve in. So the question comes down for you right now. Right now, I'm putting this question out there for you. Is this the path for you? Are you meant to walk the path of a witch or a warlock? In this case, I'm going to say a warlock. Are you willing to walk alone? Are you willing to be the joke of society? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to find the happiness and the gratification in your life? I went over 25 years, junior high, high school, I never dated. What would be classified as the college years, never dated because I didn't go to college. I didn't drink, I didn't go to parties. Hell, I was never invited to parties. I would rather spend my time in graveyards, in bookstores, than to go to a party. I used to think trying to fit in was good. It's not. Eventually, you're going to put the drama and the bullshit away and you're going to get serious. And you're going to start thinking, what's best for me? Well, guess what? I'm 42 years old. I have my own place of residence, my own car. I've had numerous cars over the years. I have 4 cats, a woman that I adore, that she adores me, even though she's a Baptist and she's a complete pain in my ass. but she's there. She is mine. She's my girl. She's spoiled rotten and she knows it. And we have a 4-year old. A 4-year old. See, this is what happens when you have patience, when you dedicate yourself to your craft and become what you're meant to be. And don't worry about anything outside of that because it is nothing more than white noise. If you got into the old grimoires, like the Black Pellet, for an example, the Clavicle of Solomon, let's go with the Grimoire of Armadale. How about the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage? Perhaps even Francis Barrett's The Magus. You'll understand that practitioners, the old mages and sages, would lock themselves away for years at a time to master the arts. Do you understand the concept of that solitary state of mind to become masters of their own domain, their own craft? I've spent the last 3 years completely dedicated to necromancy. I've gone into numerous different religions. And yes, I even looked at the Bible a few times because something caught my attention, my view, and I've delved into it. And you know what? I'm better off for it because I have that knowledge. And I apply it to my rituals and rites. The last talisman that I sent an apprentice, he said, this is more powerful than anything that I have at this time. Ironic. It's because when it comes to phylacteries, I've had to adapt. I used to have a kiln. Now I have to use a stove. And I've been adjusting the recipe little bit by little bit to master this new technique. So guess what? If I'm willing to do this, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up? Don't be stupid. Be smart. Have a good night. But before I sign off, I also want to point your attention if you have Facebook. If you have Facebook, John Gomez, founder of what's the name of that group? The Shadow, was it the Shadow Zone? I think it is. The Shadow Zone is inviting me on for an interview. This will be my third interview with this guy. 10:15 p.m. tonight. We will be discussing the Warlocks series and why I'm doing it. And anything else that he brings up that he wants to talk about. All right. So, again, check it out. Hope to see you there. Subscribe to it. Get into that group. I recommend it because he's had a lot of good practitioners in there. Some pretty good, well-known YouTubers, not just Facebookers, but actual practitioners. He does do a little shenanigans, which, like I said, is okay. But you got to remember that witchcraft and sorcery is about responsibility. You are the keepers of the sacred knowledge. Hope to see you there. Have a good night.